AI news review, where we rate articles essential, important, and optional. You can find the articles at our website, gaiinsights.com/articles. Today, I have a tremendous crew: John Svirkla, Ankaj, Adam, and Paul, and we will review 6 articles for you. Let's start with the first article, please, Ankaj.
Sure, thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from VentureBeat, and it talks about how OpenAI has returned to its old models as Sam Altman admits the bumpy GPT-5 rollout.
Bumpy.
Yeah, this is really, really complex software. It reminds me of compiler operating system dates, times when it is actually very difficult to pull these things together, and we don't realize it. So it's not really surprising per se. What did you think about this, Adam?
So I was probably optional on this piece. I could go important. I think it's important because it's kind of in the news and a lot of people are talking about it right now. Does a pretty good job of summarizing some of the missteps, the bumpy launch to the GPT-5 that Sam Altman is referring to, and the article is. But I mean, honestly, I'm more interested in focusing in how many people are starting to use reasoning models that have never realized before. Because I mean, I can't remember the exact statistics, but look at the number of people who are paying plus users that had never used a reasoning model before. They were paying for access to them and didn't even understand the capability of these tools. So yeah, some people are disappointed with some results, and there's certainly still some work to do. As you say, Luda, this is very complex.
Very complex.
And at the same time, there is going to be this huge uptake in adoption and people's understanding the vast capabilities that these tools have because these model switchers. Grok does it as well. And they'll continue to learn and refine and improve how it switches and decides which model to use when. Not the best start, certainly, but I can be pretty forgiving given the considerations. So yeah. Probably optional to important, maybe important because it's so prevalent in all the conversation right now.
I'm with you, Adam, because of complexity. What did you think about this, John?
Yeah, I was between important and essential because it's the most popular model. It's the biggest news in the industry. I think if you're an AI leader, if you haven't been following the hiccups, you really need to be aware of them just so you don't get blindsided by somebody else in the organization. So I'm between important and essential.
Yeah, but John, look, remember the Apple phone releases? You would wait for a month until it settles down before you install it, right? So we knew this type of complexity comes with bugs, and they need to be aired out. It's sort of a normal process, but we somehow expect perfection here that, it's probably not possible. What did you think, Paul?
No, but wait, can I just answer? What you raise, I think, is exactly the issue. The expectations of these are completely different than the expectations of an iPhone. iPhone's a device. This is a decision-making conversation. And so for that very reason, I think, the expectations are different. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Luda, I think you're way too kind. I think this needs to be essential because I think AI leaders need to understand that changing underlying models changes the logic and affect output. This is not like upgrading software features in Salesforce. I think, too, this is total bullshit that this wasn't done right. They did not have a long enough beta. The routing didn't break. This is Sam Altman pushing it out. And Sam Altman, for some reason, he and his team thought that by taking these 5 models and pushing them down and having the machine decide which AI model, that it wouldn't affect outcome and all the GPTs that were effective. So I find it incredibly naive and arrogant on their point. And I think it's a good lesson for AI leaders to understand in their applications that are in production. This is really important thing to be pushing on your AI team to understand that when you change models, you're changing model software logic, which impacts output. It's not just upgrading feature bugs and a browser stuff in here. So I think this topic is really important for AI leaders. So
topic is essential. Topic is essential, but I'm maybe being a little more understanding than I should.
Well, and the other one is, we just did training last Friday. When was that, John? Wednesday for 60 people at a major company here all on 4.0 and choosing models here. Now it's 5. I've sent emails to about 10 other companies that, now you've got. So, I think anybody who is trying to support, anybody who's an AI leader trying to support their executives and other people understanding this needs to get ahead of messaging as well on this, because you may also have frustrated and confused executives and Gen AI enthusiasts.
Okay, so Ankash, we have 2 forgiving folks and 2 going essential folks. What do you think?
I'm with Paul and John on this, Luda, so I'm essential for this. And there's an added reason which I think maybe made Sam Altman introduce this self-switching thing. I think they were trying to save on costs somewhere between the non-reasoning and the reasoning models. So essential on this one.
Yeah. I think to that point, I'm personally, as an individual user, I don't know if you guys, I'm really frustrated because I either want speed or thinking, and I want to decide what lane I'm in, and 5 kind of like bumps decides for me, and that's really frustrating.
That is frustrating, Paul. And moreover, when you work with 5.0, it takes it, it works on it, and then it hangs because it can't complete the task because it's sitting somewhere that you don't even know where it got confused. So yeah, from that perspective, okay, essentially it is.
Paul, Grok actually gets that right because it defaults to auto, and it's just a drop down, and you can pick the one you want.
Well said. Right. So there's a solution there. Thinking mode or not. Sam didn't do it. And if Sam would have done even a week of beta testing, the users would have come back loud and clear on this here. So this is trying to, it's too much confidence in the $12 billion of revenue is my mind.
Yeah. Okay. Brenda agrees with you guys. Essential it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
Okay, the next one comes from HBR, and it talks about the hidden penalty of using AI at work.
Yeah, a thought-provoking article. John, what did you think about this?
Yeah, I'm on the border between important and essential in this. I like it. It's got a very interesting study showing that if software programmers admit, well, first of all, it's a large minority of software programmers in this particular organization who have adopted AI, even though there's been a big push by management. And generally, the people who are not adopting, generally, on average, tend to be older and more experienced and male. And so there's that. Then they looked at the review by the senior folks of the more junior folks' capability and performance. And they found that there's so it says here, a 13% reduction for female and 6% for male engineers. So if I on average, if I admit, quote unquote, that I used AI to help, I will get a 6% lower rating. If I'm a female, I'll get a 13% lower rating. Now that's confounded with the fact that male engineers tend to rate male engineers better than they rate female engineers. So there's a little bit of correlation in that in there, autocorrelation with another factor of just gender bias. It goes through this, and I think it's a huge deal. And they give some good examples of other organizations, but this is based on, I forget, the thousands of
1,000 plus
data points here. So I thought it was very interesting, and what immediately came to mind is, a lot of times, organizational change folks talk about the permafrost of middle management. Sometimes top management will be, on board, the newbies will be on board, but it's middle management that holds on to the old way of doing things. And that's what this felt like, is that, established engineers, older male, don't want to adopt this technology and are penalizing people who do. So I thought it was an important or essential read. And then it gives some good examples of folks who, kind of get over that hump and made the use of AI in software development the default, part of the culture. So I'm on the fence, but at least important.
Okay. Important, essential from John. What did you think about this, Adam?
I would give it an important. It's thought provoking. It's definitely something to consider. It actually sheds a lot of light on the idea of bias, social bias, and the true barriers in the workplace to adoption. If people are worried about their reputation, or it's going to cause larger workplace inequality. So it's important for people to understand this. I wouldn't say it's something that if they didn't get to till this weekend, or at some point when they can catch up on some reading, then they're going to be fine. So probably an important, not an essential read for me.
Yeah, so from the perspective of metrics, I was thinking about this, right? In some sense, so I agree that the article provides a lot of material for deep thinking of how you want to position it within your company. And I'm glad that these researchers got into the process and the process metrics. So in this company, the software engineers had to flag that they're using AI, and it was known who is doing it, right? So it is essentially a situation when there was a lot of known public data, right? But you get what you measure, and they really didn't measure the impact and whether the software that was developed one way or the other works or not. So if they did focus on that, it might have been a very different outcome in terms of adoption, and shared the results and the like. So I think this article is somewhat alarmist, but it provokes quite a lot of reflection. Yeah, so important for me. What did you think about this, Paul?
Yeah, important. I mean, I think this is change management 101. Beware of your blind spots. Make sure you're going after the most politically influential skeptics and see if you can convert them over there. I think that's 101 reminder for everyone. So important.
Okay, Ankar's going important.
Important, Luda.
Okay, important it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one comes from Microsoft, and it's a case study about how Aditya Birla Capital brings down GenAI operating costs by 40% with Azure.
Yes. Ankash, what did you think about this one?
I was optional on this one, Luda. So basically, it's a, customer-facing simple chatbot that they have created with Azure. They have been able to achieve some uh, uh, reduced cost because of Azure, but nothing which we haven't seen earlier. And there are details, but they just talk about Azure in the entire article. So optional for me.
Yeah, it's sort of a puff piece here, I think. John, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was optional. Kind of a. Sorry, let me just get it in front of me here. Where are you guys? Sorry, come back to me, Ludo. Sorry, give me, but optional.
Yeah, Adam, what did you think? It's a massive case, right? So there's lots of customers and quite a bit of improvement. What did you think?
It just didn't give me quite enough detail. Like if someone just told me about this sort of use case, I'd probably have an idea that those are the Azure components you'd need, but it didn't go into enough detail about how they actually built it for me to really sort of give it that important seal of approval as a case study that really adds value.
So optional for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was more on important. I'm remembering now. Sorry, I just didn't have the article in front of me. And the reason is up front here, it gives a pretty good analysis of, I think it decreased the time to profile somebody significantly, right? And then also it's just a huge volume of folks. This notion of having a interactive financial services agent for folks, I think is really important. And they did scale it. I agree. It's a little light on detail, but it does talk about it. It's kind of full of puffery from the different executives, but anyway, I could give it important, but optional. I'm in between.
Okay. Paul, what were your thoughts?
Optional.
Yeah. Okay. So going optional. Ankash, anything to add?
No, Luda, optional.
Yeah. Optional. Okay. So optional it is. John, sorry, going optional. Okay,
All
let's
right.
proceed. Let's proceed to the next one.
The crowd has been wrong before.
Okay, the next one comes from Google Research, and it talks about achieving 10,000x training data reduction with high fidelity labels.
Right. So this is in the space of classifying unsafe ad content, where these researchers work. So it's a little bit narrow, but what they created is essentially a way to use LLMs to come up with a very curated data set that allows the very dramatic reduction from 100,000 data samples, to 500. This is really quite dramatic. And they define the process from pretty random set to then laying over the small curated set, finding an overlaps, advancing it with review, and going back and back and back until the model either stops and plateaus, or the human and the internal metrics get in sync. So this is a very cool process. I think it will be used. People will grab it and start using it in other areas. But for our audience, I think it's a little esoteric. And so I thought it was optional. What did you think, John?
Optional for all the reasons you said.
Ankash?
Optional, Luda.
Okay. Adam?
Agreed. Yep.
Paul? Guess
I just am noting the crowd and John is right in this one, so optional.
the crowd and John are on it. Okay, optional it is. Let's proceed. But a really cool technique, I think, really cool. Okay, so next one, Ankash, please.
Yeah, just
Okay, the next one.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it does parallel some of the things we're doing internally in terms of the inter-rater reliability issues and so forth. So I think it's an interesting how you deal with complex semantics in a matching algorithm. I think is not trivial.
Yeah, totally not. Okay, proceeding, Ankash.
Yeah. The next one comes from Databricks, and it talks about agent learning from human feedback.
Yeah, Adam, this is a piece it's internal to Databricks. They're describing this technique that seemed to work very, very well. What did you think about it?
Cool story, some interesting research. It's in some ways more almost, I feel, an announcement for their product than, beyond if you actually use Databricks and you use their AgentBricks knowledge assistant, this isn't going to be really helpful for you. But that being said, it is extraordinary the way they've designed this ability for people to give feedback to these agents. Who have some sort of authority, such that they can learn and then in the future very quickly sort of change the process for all of the agents. And probably an important takeaway more and more is people should start being able to expect that these systems are evolving, and that the human in the loop will continue to have a very significant impact. This possibly important because this does show to a degree how significant that impact is at such a small scale. But otherwise probably optional overall, because it's just not a broad enough piece of research or study.
Yeah, this notion of evaluation even in the preceding article, they specifically pulled out a specific metric that made the distinctions much better than regular LLMs do. So here it's two things. It's understanding the context and then changing the structure of the underlying framework to actually take into account the human feedback. They don't talk about it in detail at all, right? Actually, pretty much not at all, but it's an important area, the evaluation function for these LLMs. What did you think about this, John?
Yeah, optional. Not, and also I thought Databricks should study some of the AWS case studies just in terms of the way it's laid out and argued and so forth. But optional.
Okay. Optional, Paul?
Yeah, I just want to highlight Luda thought it was promising, but validated internally at Databricks. Still early stage. Also optional. I agree with Luda.
Okay.
Thank you, Luda.
Thank you, Paul. Ankash, okay, optional?
Yes, Luda, okay with optional, but I think this concept may be important to essential. So, Paul, John, if you remember the conversation that we were having with our client, where we were discussing about the manufacturing industry and how a lot of workers are retiring, and the knowledge that they have, it's difficult to impart that to younger workers. And maybe this method might be useful to give that knowledge to these agents. So, I think
Yeah.
important concept from that perspective.
The concept, certainly, if we had a little bit better understanding of how they got it to stick internally, because you can give it, right? But then it doesn't necessarily stick through. Okay, so
Yeah.
going optional for now. Yeah, John?
Not to sound like Gary Marcus, God forbid, but they are in a lot of ways, the folks who are building these large language models are doing a bad job of recreating a whole bunch of stuff about knowledge engineering that was really explored in a lot of depth in the early 1980s. In terms of how you elicit information from experts, how you create a semantic model in the context of that, and we're headed that way, but it's kind of painful to watch sometimes people not even go look at the stuff that's already known.
Agree. But optional it is. Let's proceed. So important concept. It will evolve, and it's evolving in front of our eyes, however painfully. So, but the article doesn't call it out. So optional. Let's proceed to the next one. Ankash, please.
Okay, the last one that we have for today comes from AWS and talks about how Amazon Bedrock powers next generation account planning at AWS.
Yeah. In a classic AWS case study. What did you think, John?
Yeah, I was going to give this maybe an important. First of all, the problem is a very interesting problem. I was chief marketing officer at PwC for a while and Price Waterhouse, and this issue of getting ready for an account is just a central issue in any kind of business-to-business organization. And the fact that they, can radically improve the quality of the communication and the quality of the output. I forget the exact statistics. Is like 30-40% decrease in time, 20-something% increase in quality of of these things. And how do they get those numbers? Who cares? I mean, it just this is such a critical issue for at scale business to business players, and it is. Anyway, I won't bore you guys with the whole thing where I was trying to automate more of it in terms of assessing the account, and so we were buying some software and doing this, and but this is a hugely important issue for businesses. We have a client that we will use this example with right away because this is central to their business to business marketing. So it's pretty well written. I would love to have more. It is. What the heck? It's the cobbler not only selling his own shoes, but telling you about the leather and the bindings and everything. So I mean, it's promotional, but it's such an important area, and the way they went at it, I think is pretty cool. So.
Yeah. So it is from the inception, this bot delivered 37% improvement in quality, in plan quality, and decreased the time by 52%.
Yeah, I was remembering it too low. Yes, almost 40% on quality. Yeah,
Quality.
Again, how do you assess quality? Whatever, I'm sure it was better having done a ton of these things. And I mean, talk about where in business to business marketing, this is probably the most important activity after solving problems for your customer.
Yeah, and so this is an improvement on their original Pulse, where they released it in January 25, and I think there was a case that we reviewed some after it was released. Yeah. So this is the iteration 2, and then at the end they talk about iteration 3, whether they will take these plans and start start feeding it back on implementation of what has been done, what hasn't been done, how well it was done. So it's sort of completing the loop. That would be extremely powerful. So we might see another case from AWS on that. What did you think about this, John? Oh, Paul, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I agree. Nothing to add. Good conversation. I agree with John. This is really, really important area. And I think this is like one of the many things, John, 5 years from now, we won't see RFPs going out that don't have a video on it and emotional content here. 5 years from now, maybe 3 years from now, we won't see a non-AI assisted account planning here because there are just so many value add, and it's really important. It's high leverage.
Lucinda is asking whether this applies cross without AWS being the in the background or the core system. Yes, Lucinda, it certainly carries through. They talk about specific components, but those components exist in the tech stack or other implementation.
Yeah, I was going to add, sometimes on these AWS case studies, the engineering diagram is like rocket science. It's got so many complex, deep things, and this is a very simple, clean design. I absolutely see how you could extend it over into some other cloud or some other infrastructure for sure.
Yeah. Okay, Adam, what's it for you? How did you rate it? Adam?
I said I'm good with important. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. And Ankash, going important. Anything to add?
No, Luda. Important it is.
Okay. So important it is. As Ankash prepares the final chart, any announcements, Paul, John?
I just put a thing in the comments here. It's an old article I did back in the 80s about expert systems knowledge engineering and their impact on businesses. And through the magic of the internet, it's available to you all. So anyway, I put that link in there for the interested.
Thank you, John. Announcements, Paul?
Couple announcements. Tonight's Learning Lab, John's going to be covering China versus U.S. arms race. Is it bigger than the space race? We argue it is, and why it really needs to be on the radar screen of AI leaders. Second is I encourage everyone to like and subscribe, particularly on YouTube. That's really helpful for us to continue to grow this this great show that we're marching towards our 400th episode, which Ankash, I think, might be in a week or so. So we really want to celebrate that. And then lastly, the excitement around GA World continues to grow. It's September 29th and 30th in Boston here. We've really got some momentum. IBM signed up as a sponsor. Forbes is a sponsor. Tickets are selling through the weekend here. We just added 2 executives from Nissan as speakers. So if you're able to attend, please check us out. We do have a cheaper price that grows up August 15th. So buy before then if you can.
Yeah, and we're going to have a Women in AI breakfast as we did last year. So if you're listening to this, please join us at that breakfast. It was a really cool event. We'll be better this year. Okay, Ankash, the scorecard. Okay, we have 1 essential, 2 importance, and 3 optionals today. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for commenting. Ashish, Lucinda, Brenda, really appreciate it. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.